Hey, happy Thursday. Don't mind me, I just ate a bunch of Honey Nut Cheerios. I am headed out of town for the day for a funeral. We had a death in the family. It was expected. I mean, we knew it was coming. Actually, he lived longer than they thought he would. It's my dad's cousin, one of my dad's cousins, who's been battling cancer. He battled cancer for about, my God, 5 or 6 years. And he ended up living probably at least a year longer than the doctors thought he would. That's my dad's family, though. They're stubborn. You can't tell them what to do. They're gonna spite you. You tell them you only have 6 months to live. I'll live a year and a half, Doc. I'm gonna live another year and a half. What you think about that? No, it's cool. I have my wrap. I'm not going into a funeral with my bare arms showing. I was raised right. That's one thing in the South that I've noticed hasn't completely changed. When I was growing up, you did not step foot in a church unless you had on your Sunday best. I don't care what the occasion is. You don't go into church dressed like you just got out of bed or you're going to yard sales. You put on nice clothes. You look nice. You iron your skirt. You fix your hair. Go in there looking like my mama would say. Go in there looking like you got some sense. Go in there looking like you were raised right. Don't go in there looking like that. Your skirt's wrinkled. Look at your blouse. Go get the iron. That's how I was raised. What the hell is all over the road? The road just in this lane is wet. I think something's coming out of that truck up there. I hope it's not like cyanide or something. What the hell? Ew. It's all over just this lane. So, yeah, I'm going to be out of town. I don't know when I'm going to be back. I got to go back to my hometown. My older son is working today. My younger son is sick. I don't know. We had Taco Bell last night, and he started throwing up in the middle of the night, and he's not feeling good at all. I had some as well. I feel fine. My older son we all had the same thing. We had soft tacos last night. I just went and looked like a suitcase of soft tacos. I had 3. My older son, I think, had 4 or 5. My younger son, I think, had 3. The only difference I know of is he put hot sauce on his and we didn't. That was the only difference. But anyway, he's very sick to his stomach, so I'm going to leave him at home. Yeah, it's a long drive. He's staying at the house. So it's just me. And there's gunk on the windshield. Oh, it dried on there in little spots. That's terrible. I'm a little pissed because I just washed my car the other night. Whatever that was is now all over my hood. Oh well. That's life, I guess. So, my family is kind of weird. I've mentioned it before, but I was thinking about it last night. It's actually, and it's actually not all that uncommon. If you lived in the rural areas in the South, or really anywhere, back in the early 1900s, you probably had a lot of kids. And you probably did at least some farming unless you lived in the city. A lot more people were farmers back then. Now they didn't have great big farms. Most people just had a little one. My mother's mother grew up, they had not like a big farm, but they did a lot of farming. They were never wealthy at all. They always were very poor. They did the best they could, and they had to go through the Depression as well. And that was hard on everybody. Okay, I'm going to tell you about my family a little bit. So, I'm not using the real last names, but let me just say this. My family tree is a little weird. Not because there was inbreeding, do not go there. And if you think there was no inbreeding in your past, you're wrong. Everybody has it. You go back far enough, you're going to find some. Everybody does. You are not special. You got it too. Did it happen in the South? Yeah. Did it happen elsewhere? Yeah. It's happened everywhere. It's, if you have a sparse population, you're gonna see some. It just is. That's just what happens. That was not the case in my family. There wasn't any. I'm trying to stop saying I've noticed I picked that up from my younger son. I don't know where the hell he got it, but he'll be in the middle of talking, and he'll do that and then carry on. And I've caught myself doing it. It's like it's contagious. I do apologize. I hear it. I know I'm doing it. That's one good thing about making videos of yourself just talking. You pick up on stuff that you might not have noticed otherwise. The hell is that? It's like a tick. Just stop it. All right. Here's what happened. We're going to say my mother's family's last name is Smith, and my father's family's last name is Jones. That's not their last names, but we're going to go with that. Smith and Jones. All right. The Smith family had 9 children. I think it was 5 sisters and 4 brothers or something like that. Now, one of the brothers died in the Spanish flu. So there were 8 left, 8 children. In the Jones family, I don't even know how many there were. There were at least 6 or 7 kids in that family. Okay, now they didn't grow up too far apart. They grew up in the same area. 3 of the Smith sisters married 3 of the Jones brothers around the same time. There were 3 weddings not too far apart. These 3 couples then proceeded to have a pile of children. A pile of children. Each couple, I believe, had at least 5 kids. I think there were maybe 18 total children that came from these 3 couples. All right. So, that does crazy things to a family tree right there, because you're related to everybody, basically. And all these kids kind of grew up together. They were all around the same age. Also, during this time, the other children married other people, and they had children. And they had piles of children too. Like, everybody back then had a lot of kids. You didn't have reliable birth control, and they needed, as many hands as they could get to keep body and soul together. I mean, it was tough times. These were not wealthy families. These were very poor families who didn't have much. But they got by. These are families that could say, when the Depression came, we didn't even know, because, we were already there. We didn't feel much of a change in our lifestyle. We were already growing everything we ate and, trading with our neighbors to try to, get what we needed and, help each other out. That's what we did. My dad was telling me the story of his father. Now, my dad was born in 1940. My dad's father grew up during the Depression, and they had a little bit of land that they could grow some food on, grow some vegetables on this land. And one morning, this was during the Depression, and a lot of people headed west to try to find work. There was no work. There were no jobs. So a lot of people headed west any way they could get there, walking, getting a ride when they can. It was a lot like The Grapes of Wrath. I mean, that's a really good book to read, The Grapes of Wrath. It's based on people's accountings of the Depression and what it was like for them. It was a hell of a hard time. And in our lifetime, we may know what that was like. We may very well. Anyway, one morning, this was when my grandfather was younger, they woke up and looked out in the corner of their garden out there was a man who had set up a little fire and had a pot and had dug potatoes up out of their garden and was boiling them and eating them right out there in the edge of their garden. And my grandfather went out there and just, like, hey, what are you doing? And the man just broke down and cried. He said, I'm sorry. I'm so hungry. I am so sorry. I took some of your potatoes. I am so sorry. And I don't have any money. I don't have anything to give you. He was headed west trying to find work. He had walked from somewhere down towards the coast of North Carolina and was going to look for work. And he said, I'm so sorry. I've run out of food. I don't have anything to eat. But he was going somewhere. I got to go try to find some work. His family was back home. And my grandfather, he did get mad. He actually ended up giving him more. They dug up some more potatoes for him and just gave him what they could spare and said, you just take this. And the man just cried. He just cried. He was so grateful just to have a bag of potatoes to eat, because he had no food. He had nothing. And my father, or my grandfather said, you take that, and good luck. Well, I hope you find work. Good luck. And that was a common thing back then. People, the only way a lot of people made it was because they helped each other out. That's what they had to do. It was a very different time from what most people today have ever known. Now, I grew up a little different, I guess, from a lot of my peers. My father remembered a lot of the stories that his father told about living through the Depression, and you need to prepare, you need to be ready in case it happens again. You need to be ready. And my dad was never like a full-on prepper, but one of the reasons why we lived out in the middle of nowhere was so we were away from big cities. If society did collapse, we were away from there. And we grew a lot of the food we ate. We learned how to garden. I learned how to garden. I learned how to can. I learned how to do, just homesteading kind of things that you need to be able to do to survive on your own. I learned a lot of that. My brother learned a lot of that. And he, always told me, my parents always taught me growing up, you need to be self-sufficient. If you ask the Native Americans how it goes when you think the government tells you they're going to help you. Ask them how that worked out for them. Nobody is going to come save you. You're going to have to be able to take care of yourself. And that was kind of just instilled in my brother and me growing up. So pay attention to what's going on. Turn off celebrity gossip or whatever bullshit you're watching. Turn that shit off. Look at what is going on in the world. Look. Yeah. I know I get light and fluffy and I talk about all kinds of silly things, but this is no joke. I don't know why. I don't mean to get off on that. But yes, pay attention to what's going on. And don't expect somebody to come help you. They probably won't. You need to be able to take care of yourself. You need to start making plans right now for that. And I'm gonna shut up about that. I'm not gonna say anything else, but look around at what's going on. Not just here in the USA, but all over the world. Look. Wake up and look at it. Shit's gonna get bad. It's gonna get really bad. I hope I'm wrong. But everything I learned growing up is coming in handy now. Yeah. So, we have plans. And I hope everything doesn't fall apart, but if it does, you won't see me anymore. I will not be in the city anymore. I'll be gone. My kids and I will be gone. So, all right, I'm sorry. I just think it's important. I think it's important, and y'all need to, if you haven't prepared, and hey, sometimes it rains. Sometimes you need extra stuff. You might need some extra food. You might be stuck at home for a week or two. Could you do that? Could you make it on what you have at home right now for a month? 2 months? What if there was no food? 6 months? What would you do? And when other people come looking for what you got, what would you do? Because it may come to that. How would you handle that? Okay, I will shut up for real now. It's just, I think it's very important. I may act like an airhead, but I'm really not. I was born at night, not last night. So my family had a pile of children. Now this was, all these children that were born were the generation before me. that pile of children proceeded to have a pile of children. That's me and all my cousins. Now, I am a product of both the Smith and the Jones family, but by a different way. Here's how I am a product of both. My mother was the daughter of one of the other Smith sisters. Because like I said, there were 9 children total. One of them passed away in the Spanish flu. My mother's mother was one of the other Smith daughters. And I'm just using the last name Smith and Jones just as an example. My father is the son of one of the other Jones brothers. So I'm related to a lot of people a bunch of different ways. And the funeral I'm going to now is one of the pile of children that was born from the three sisters and the 3 brothers that got married. It's one of them. He was born, I think he and my dad were born like a week apart. They're almost the exact same age. And all these children grew up together. They lived in the same community. They were close enough by that they grew up working together, playing together. You know, the family reunions were big, huge. You know, all these people would get together. They've been doing family reunions on both sides of my family for many, many years. And there's been talk of combining the two, because we still have 2 separate reunions. There's a Smith and a Jones, and we do them separately, and we've talked about combining them. Because a lot of people go to both. Hell, I go to both. You know, why don't we just do it? We might, I don't know. Because see, the thing is, now that the older generation is starting to unfortunately pass away, a lot of the younger generations just aren't interested in going to the reunion, and a lot of them just don't go. And you can't make them go. I mean, if they don't want to go, you can't make them go. Seatbelt's messing up my lovely little neckline here. Yes, I'm dressed up. I have on my black dress, and I'm ready. It's just very sad. He was a good guy. He was so nice. He was bad to spin a tall tale. He'd tell you a line of shit, but he was a nice person. He would do anything to help anybody. One of the kindest hearted people you would ever meet. And I've known him all my life, you know. He was like my dad's brother. He's more like an uncle to me than my dad's cousin, you know. He always called me Murray. He pronounced my name Murray. And a lot of the older generations would either pronounce my name Murray or Mary. Mary. A lot of the older women would say Mary. But my mother's mother called me Murray. 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 I mean, you don't ever think about it because you hear it growing up. It just becomes, it's just normal. You just know, well, that's just the way they say it, Murray. You don't think about it. That's why I don't understand these people. They're so quick to pronounce the way, to correct the way people pronounce things. Have you never experienced the phenomenon of people say shit differently? You don't need to correct them. You don't need to say anything to them. That's just the way they say it. Calm down. Mary? Mary? Oh my God. Okay. We expect to have a lot of people at this funeral. I bet I said reunion. But see, I just saw him at the reunion. Now, he was very weak. He was very weak. I mean, we knew he didn't have long. He knew he didn't have long, but he wanted to make it to his one last reunion. He made it. But what they had to do, we have the reunion at one of his brother's houses. They don't live too far apart. And what they did was, his son brought him down there. He had a gator, a side-by-side or whatever it's called. Loaded him up on that because he could get in and out of that a little easier than a vehicle, like a truck or a car. And he just rode him down there. There's like a path that runs down between their houses, and he just drove him down there. So I got to see him and talk to him one last time. And that's, you know, it's hard to lose people, but at least in a situation like this, I mean, at least you have time to say goodbye and make arrangements. And, you know, it's so hard when you lose somebody suddenly. It's so hard. I mean, you don't get to say goodbye. That's the way it was for me with Aunt Mary. Aunt Mary was my I would say great aunt, but for some reason I'm thinking that's not right. She was either my great aunt or my great aunt, my great aunt. She was, hang on. was my dad's grandmother's sister. So I'm thinking that makes her my great-great aunt. And she had a stroke. A stroke? She had a stroke. Yes, it was in August of 1980. I was 5, almost 6 years old. I loved her to death. She was my favorite person in the whole world. She spoiled me and my brother rotten. She was the only person who did. My dad's parents both died when I was very small. My mother's parents just were not the type to spoil anybody. There's cold biscuits in there if you want something to eat. She never hugged me. She never told me she loved me. That's just not the way they were. They were not huggy, kissy people. They never were. My mother's parents never told me they loved me. They never hugged me. Nothing. I ate a lot of cold biscuits. I remember her kind of tossing them to me. She wouldn't hand them to me. She'd just kind of toss them. Like if I was sitting at the table, she'd just kind of wing it. Like, here, have a biscuit. American biscuit. It's not a cookie. It's bread. It's like a bread. And she made it with this wheat germ stuff. And it was very bland. I remember it was very dry and very bland. But that's the way she liked them. They were all right. You get used to them. They grew a lot of their own food. That's another thing. My mother's mother lived to be 94, and they had a big garden every year. She was still out there. She'd be out there all day in the heat. I mean, she grew up doing it. They were used to that kind of thing. Go out there and work in the heat all day in that garden. I would have passed out, but even on up into her 80s, she was still out there gardening, out there in the hot sun. But anyway, Aunt Mary was, and my dad was mad about it too. She was canning peaches on the stove in the middle of August. And my dad had told her not to do that. She had no air conditioning in her house. She had a very old house, you know. I loved her house. It was so cool. She was canning peaches over the stove. And my dad had told her, don't you do that. It's too hot. And she had a heat stroke. And she went into a coma. And she never woke up from it. And I never got to tell her goodbye. Although she was in intensive care, and children were not allowed back there, but the doctor knew she was not going to wake up. And they snuck us back there to say goodbye. Sorry. Whew, okay. What was I saying? I don't know. Alright. Well, yeah, there'll be a lot of people at this funeral. Whole lot. I'm glad I stopped at Taco Bell. I refreshed my napkin stash. I was down to one raggedy ass napkin in my little pouch over here. I had one bedraggled napkin. I've got some fresh ones now. Because, you know, Taco Bell, they always give you about 500 napkins. Like, what are you trying to say? You think I'm messy or something? I'm not that bad. But I took some of them and stuck them in the door. I ate my tacos sitting in the parking lot of the Taco Bell last night. I did. I was starving. Because it was about 7:30 and I hadn't had anything to eat since lunchtime. And waiting in the drive-thru line, I realized, I thought, I'm actually really hungry. So I ate my 3 just little soft tacos sitting in the parking lot. That was my dinner last night. And then I took the rest of them home and the kids ate the rest of them. Yeah. Gosh, I haven't been down through here in a while. Nothing's changed. That's one nice thing about going back to my hometown. Nothing really ever changes there. It's kind of nice to have that stability. You can go back and it's just the same as it was. I don't expect my mother to be at this funeral. I've talked about my mother and the fact that we don't really have a relationship anymore. It's never been a great relationship. It's been one-sided, I'd say, probably for the last 15 years or so. It's been 100% me. I initiate all visits, all contact. Otherwise, the only time I ever hear from her is when she needs something from me. Other than that, I don't ever hear a word out of her. I haven't heard from her in 2 years. I left the door open to her, said, if you need anything, if I can do anything for you, let me know. I'll be happy to help. But she said, she made it very clear she didn't need my help. She didn't need anything from me. But she has Alzheimer's, and it's, I don't know what's going on with her. I hate it, but I don't go where I'm not wanted. I'm a disappointment to her. She doesn't think too much of me. I committed the sin of being born not my brother, and my brother is the golden child for her, and he's just wonderful, which he is wonderful. My brother's actually a great person. I don't have any ill will towards him at all, but I'm not him. So in my mother's eyes, I am nothing special. So anyway, but I don't expect her to go. She's 80. How old is she? She will be 83 in August. She's less than a year older than my dad. But, yeah, my dad will be 82 next month. That's crazy. He said, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. He still gets around fine. He's still got his wits about him. He does tell me the same story over and over. He'll repeat, but hell, he was doing that when he was my age. He's always kind of been like, he just tells you the same story over and over, like, Daddy, I don't say this, but I think, do you honestly not remember telling me this story at least 10 other times? Why are you like that? I don't know. You ever watch your parents and wonder, am I going to be like that at their age? Good and bad. Like, am I still going to be able to get out and go where I want to go when I'm 82? I hope so. Man, I hate being stuck at home. I hate being stuck at home. I hate it. My dad's the same way. He's got to be going somewhere all the time. He hates being at home. He's wanting to go, go, go. And I'm the same way. I hate being stuck at the house. My mother would be happy if she never had to leave home again. She hates going anywhere. I never could get her to go to any of my kids' graduations or award ceremonies or birthday parties. Nah. She always had an excuse for why she couldn't go. So I just quit asking. Several years ago, I just quit asking. It's embarrassing to hear you sit there and come up with all these excuses for why you can't go again to anything that means something to them. But when it's something she wants to do, she miraculously gets better and can go do whatever. Yeah. Dysfunctional. My family is dysfunctional. Shit, everybody's family is dysfunctional. It is. I grew up watching these TV shows in the 80s, and I really thought that everybody else had a happy family. If there were any problems, they were always kind of wacky, and they could resolve them in 30 minutes, and everybody was perfect and lovely, and I kind of thought that's the way everybody else lived. It's not true. Everybody doesn't live like that. I think there was something I was going to tell you, and I distracted myself. I got off on something, but I don't know what it was. I do want to tell you my pregnancy stories. I will not today, but I'll tell them to you one of these days. It's funny now, but a whole lot of stuff was not funny back then, but it's kind of funny now. So it's just the crazy shit that went on. God. I hear it. I'm trying to get my son to stop doing it. He does it even more than I do. He'll do it every other sentence. I think I'll make a recording of him. Here, listen to yourself. You hear it? This is the first time I've worn a dress and I don't know how long. I almost got rid of this dress. I was going through my closet not too long ago, and I saw it and I thought, I ought to get rid of that. I never wear that dress. But I thought, no, hang on to it. It's a nice dress. It fits, it's a nice basic black dress. You could wear it anywhere. And I wasn't really thinking, well, you might need it for a funeral. I just thought, no, it's a pretty dress. Don't get rid of it. It's nice. So, I I ended up saving it. And I'm glad I did, because it's the only black dress I have. I do have like a black skirt and a black top I could have worn. That would have been just as fine. The only thing about this dress, though, it's a little bit short. I started not to wear it, but I had a skirt that was longer. I thought about wearing that. Maybe I should have. I don't know. But now, people when they go to church just wear whatever. Now, I am not a religious person. I don't go to church. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. But it kind of amazes me if I happen to drive by a church on Sunday morning when they're going in. People just wear whatever. And that doesn't sit right with me. Because the way I was raised, in the South, and not just the South, but, the South has these, they just have their ways. And the way I was raised, it is very disrespectful to step foot in the house of the Lord in anything other than your Sunday best. You do not go in there looking like a mess. You go in there looking nice. You trade whatever you can do. If if you don't have a lot of money, you at least want to go in there, shine your shoes a little bit and, straighten up. Stand up straight, tuck your shirt in, take your hat off. You do that. And God, people now just roll in there in like flip-flops and a tank top. Like, really? That's the best you can do? To my family, that was disrespectful. That is disrespectful to the Lord. You don't go in there looking like that. It still kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I haven't been religious in over 20 years. But it's still just like, ugh. You can't go to a little trouble to fix yourself up a little bit. Wow. My ancestors are rolling in their graves. Anyway. Yeah, I got to get off here. I've got some cereal and a banana and an apple. I'm not really sure, because we've got the service, we got the funeral service, and then there's the burial, which is at a totally different church. I'm not really sure what's going on. The service is at 1. I think I know why they did it this way. He wants to be buried over there where his mother's buried. I think that's what it is. I guess they bought plots over there where his parents are buried. It's at a different church. So, yeah, that actually makes sense. And I guess this church where they're doing the service is where he went to church. It's the whole thing. But they are expecting a lot of people, because everybody knew him. He was just one of these people. Everywhere he went, he knew somebody. And he actually passed away on Sunday. But they made the arrangements for Thursday because people have to make travel arrangements to get here. There are people from all over the country coming to this funeral. But he knew people everywhere. He was something. See, he and his wife, when they retired, bought this gigantic RV, and they spent like 3 years just touring the whole country. They spent about 3 years going all over the country and met people all over the place. So they made a lot of friends during that 3 or 4 years. They were just gone. They'd come back through every now and then, but they were pretty much gone the entire time. It was their dream. They had always wanted to do that, and when they retired, they were able to do it. So, yeah, they did. They enjoyed that. So, anyway, they got to know people all over. And they'll pass through different places and visit with their friends they made. And, it's just like a whole thing. RVing is like a lifestyle for some people. You get to know people all over, and you go to annual events all over the country. And, oh, yeah. So, I like to go, but I don't know if I'd want to be gone that long. That's a bit much for me. I'm going to get run over by this Mack truck. I'm speeding up. He needs to be able to get up this hill. We're getting into the hilly part of North Carolina. It's kind of flat in Greensboro. You get on down to this part, it starts getting hilly down here. And I start sounding like I sound like a pan of cornbread. The closer I get to home, I turn into damn Gomer Pyle. Well, golly. Surprise, surprise, surprise. The Mack Truck World Headquarters is in Greensboro. It is. Mack Truck and what's the other one? Shit. There's another one. One of Volvo's headquarters. I know they're Swedish, but they have oh, he turned off. Volvo has an office in Greensboro too. All right. well, I'm going to eat a banana or something. And we'll get off of here. I hope that you're having a good day. And, you know, hug your mom and daddy. Hug your family. Call them up, see how they're doing. It's a shame that a lot of families are not as close as they used to be. Mine's not either, shit. I mean, I just stay up in Greensboro and I don't go visit people like I ought to. And you have a good day. And whatever it was I was going to tell you, I guess maybe I'll remember it some other time and I'll tell you then. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon.